pretty informal session today. We're talking about, or really opening up a dialogue about gambling on the golf course. And there's some stories, I'm sure, and people have opinions about that. And I want to open up to the floor. I tell a couple of stories, but I want to open up to the floor and hear your thoughts and your stories on gambling. Enjoy it, guys.
This is the Golf Essentials Podcast with Casey Borg.
So a good friend of mine was talking with me about some topics for the podcast, and he was just joking about gambling on the golf course as a topic, and I think it's an interesting one. I have some stories to tell there, but I'm also more interested in hearing stories from everybody else as well, and your thoughts on whether gambling should be even allowed. I'm all for having little friendly matches. That's really cool. Technically, the USGA doesn't allow gambling, and most people don't understand why. But I can tell you, at the club that I was at in Phoenix, I won't say the club or anything, but they had a group of members there that played a couple times a week, and they'd throw around, the buy-in was $100 or something like that, and you could stand to lose a few $100s, and you could win. Like if you had a great day, you could make $1,000 or something. And so what they did in that group, they kept their own handicaps because they wanted to make sure that people weren't coming in and sandbagging the hell out of it and raking in a bunch of money. So they had their own handicap, and that's all they cared about at the club. So when we ran club events, even like the club championship and member guest and things like that, and we're giving out $500 in pro shop credit, they don't give a shit about their USGA handicap, their regular handicap, right? That's a donation compared to the side action that they had going on there. And, those games and those guys were really fun. I played in some of those sometimes, and it was really the most fun group to play with at that club. And I totally get it. If you're playing in a side action game and you stand to win or lose $1,000 or $2,000, you don't care about, third place, $200 in the pro shop kind of thing. And so that those sort of rules of amateur status really get trampled on when gambling sort of runs wild a little bit. And of course, the integrity of your handicap as you go off, and some of the guys are pretty good players, maybe playing in state amateur stuff and things like that. You need a legitimate handicap if you're going to sort of cross over and play in other clubs. And a lot of these guys wouldn't bother posting for their normal handicap because they didn't care about it. They played most of the time at their home club, and when they traveled, their handicap wasn't very accurate. So although it was a lot of fun and in the end really good for the club because they played all the time and they'd come into the grill and have a great time, and maybe 30 guys would play in that group a couple times a week. But I'm curious what you guys think, if you've got stories. It's funny, I played with one of the guys in that group was known around the club as being, he literally was a professional gambler. He had done a lot of things. He had opened up casinos and things like that. And I remember him at the member guest, he and his partner took on the whole field in the putting contest for any amount of money that anybody wanted to wager, and he was accepting 7-1 odds, and there were like 30 teams in the putting contest, and a bunch of people took him up on it, and there was like 15 grand going around, and everybody was getting really nervous because they won and they won and they won, and they made it to the finals, and his partner missed a shorty. I think he was just throwing up on himself because there was so much money at stake. But that's how this guy rolled. He would push people and bet for more money than anybody else was comfortable with, and he was comfortable with it, and that was his advantage. That was his strategy. I played a pro-am with him once, and we played at a good golf course. And he and I had never really played together before, and I was playing pretty good, and he had told me a story about times when he was in Texas. So like he had gotten in this money game playing for $100,000, and he and his partner had purposefully sort of thrown the game on the first day. I think they played for 20 the first day. They purposefully sort of threw the game on the first day and then circled back and wanted to play them for 100 the next day, and that's when they turned it on, and they ended up winning the bet, but I don't think they ever got to collect it because the guys were so pissed off about it and they barely escaped town. And literally in the same breath, I'm playing pretty decent in this pro-am, and he's sitting in the cart with me. He's like, "Hey, Case, have you ever thought about playing in any money games or anything like that?" And after hearing this story about some goons chasing him out of the parking lot in Texas, I'm like, "No, like, sorry, man. Like, I'm game for stuff as much as the next guy, but I like to play in tournaments where you throw a couple $100 in and you can win $100,000 or $1 million on the tour or something. I'm not up for throwing in 100 to win 100. That's not cool to me. But so gambling is an interesting subject, and I suspect that there's a lot of people out there that has some experience playing for money or creative games, creative things that you've seen on a golf course where people are winning, losing cash. And I think there's a lot of stories to be had there. So I'm going to keep it short today and leave it at that. I hope that, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Facebook, go to aboutgolf.org and shoot me messages. And I'd be really curious to hear from you and, collect some stories. And if we need to circle back and maybe have some roundtables or share some of those stories with the podcast, I will absolutely, certainly do that. So, hey guys, I'm all about bringing value, so shoot me all of the questions that you have, cbork@pga.com. If you like the stuff, be sure to share it and subscribe on whatever channels you're watching it on. Apple Podcasts, Google Casts, any of those channels. You should be able to subscribe easily so you get every episode. Thanks, guys.